Apyayantu mamangani vakpranashchakshushrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam mama brahma nirakarot anirakaranam astvanirakaranam me astu tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaste mai santu te mai santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Why is it knowledge? Because you can prove everything that Vedanta is saying right here and now through your analysis. So therefore, if you apply your mind in the right way, using the means of knowledge, then you will come to the exact same understanding that Vedanta is conveying. So therefore, when the Upanishads are conveying a certain reality, and by going through that understanding, you come to recognize that, even though you've been missing it out, recognizing it, it becomes therefore knowledge. Okay? And the word knowledge has several meanings. So if you take the word knowledge, knowledge. If you look in the dictionary, it means one, information. Okay, some information about something. So you go study knowledge about science or whatever. So info. The second term for knowledge is consciousness. Okay. The third term for knowledge is that which your mind understands. Okay, that's the mind. Is keeping with what is being shown by the Upanishads. So that's three definitions of knowledge. One, information. Two, literally means consciousness, which is why you hear a lot about jnanam. Teachers will say, right, jnanam has taken place or jnanam has taken place. So this means that knowledge of who you are has taken place. And what do they mean when they say knowledge of who you are has taken place? I will get to you. It means that what the Upanishads are conveying is exactly what my mind has captured. There is no discrepancy between the Upanishads, what they intend to convey, and what the mind has understood.
Yeah, that's what I was asking myself always. If I read this, it's pure knowledge, they call it, no?
Yeah.
And they call it pure, jnati, they have all these terms.
Yeah.
But it's really like synonym. Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, all these terms.
So basically knowledge. So
pure knowledge, which
definition number 2.
Apparently as the
definition number 2, pure knowledge. Yeah. Like even in Tattva Bodh, for those who have done, remember jnanam? In other words, what is the nature of reality? Knowledge. In this case, you have to go to definition number 2, consciousness. Okay? If you say it's definition number 1, then it just becomes merely facts, data, academic studies.
It sounds contrary, because consciousness is actually attributeless. So it's a strange term to call it knowledge, because knowledge still stands for something, or for.
But that's the way it's being reflected in the
Knowledge is
No, don't use the reflected. No, don't use the reflected. Okay? Because reflected is, if you've seen the Tattva Bodh, reflected consciousness has a certain context, and I don't use this teaching because it's very confusing. It creates 2 realities now. There's one original consciousness and there's reflected consciousness. Do not attach adjectives onto consciousness.
Chit avasa is the term. It's cheat, but it is reflected in our mind.
Yeah, so the word reflected consciousness specifically wants to say as though confined consciousness. So this means as you're walking around, this all-pervading self seems like it's isolated to one single unit. That isolation, which is not actual, that as though isolation is called reflected consciousness.
Reflected consciousness is also pure.
Of course, because it's just one consciousness.
So I would say that the difference between Vedanta and Christianity, for example, where you have to believe is there's living proof that Vedanta works, expressed to the Guru, for example, who is a living proof of what Vedanta is teaching. I don't have to believe that it's working, whereas in Christianity, nobody has come back from heaven in order to say, listen guys, it works. So,
Yeah, and there is one fella in Australia, he's in north of Australia, and he states that he's a reincarnation of Jesus. And I mean, many people have stated this before, and his wife is Magdalene, so... and they're just so pure, you know, they're just so like la 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 la, right? Typical. And they're convinced. They've been teaching this for many years, and there are, I saw the recordings, and some older people come there, and they won't buy anything, you know, they'll buy anything nowadays. So, and you can't prove that. You can just claim it, but you can't prove it. And it's still strange that even if you claim it, people will still believe it. So you can't really blame the person who's claiming it, nor the person who's coming, because there is a certain dynamic. You know, maybe you want to believe something bigger, and maybe, who knows, maybe you see that it is not really for me, and then you move on and you say, this is not the real Jesus. Then they continue their spiritual search. So again, it's not about, you know, saying they don't know what they're doing. They're just being themselves. They're convinced by that. It's a total reality for them, but there is much, much more than, you know, than they think, right? So this is the danger of not having a pramana. You can claim anything and get away with it. But Vedanta does not allow that. The beauty of Vedanta is it does its own, what's called Purva Paksha and Nanu. Purva Paksha is having debates. So in other words, one will have a debate whether there is logical flaws in one's own methodology. So it's one thing to protect your methodology and say, oh, this is our stuff, and then sort of protect it. Vedanta doesn't do this. It says, are there actual logical fallacies in our understanding? Let's criticize our own understanding. In other words, the stakes are so high that you cannot afford to buy into a belief and carry it around. So therefore, why is Vedanta knowledge? Because it constantly performs inquiry and does debates with other competing schools, not to destroy them, but to see what kind of logics have they ascertained based on their observation, and thus to see if it can be destroyed. Just like a scientific panel, a science will come to a certain understanding, like E equals mc squared. Now, that is a good formula, but what you have to do is you have to go to the panel, scientific panel, and you have to present your formula in front of other scientists. And what will they do? They will throw you objections. And you have to keep on countering all of their objections to show that your logic cannot be broken. And if none of them can break down your logic, then your E equals mc squared stays pure. It stays as it is. And that is exactly how science and Vedanta has operated since beginningless time. This is why the tradition is so good, because it's checking itself up. It's adopting to the latest. It doesn't exclude itself from the now. It allows you to see how any moment can fit inside the model that Vedanta is showing you.
Are these debates still going on?
These things are still going on. Much less because during Buddhism was accentuating. It was growing more and more and more. And Vedanta, Advaita, the tradition was falling down. And so Adi Shankara revived what was already there all along. And he went having debates. He went to Buddhists, went to Purva Pakshins, he went to different kinds of sects. And he showed them that, hey, let's sit down and have a debate. Just like he had a debate at Varanasi with Mandana Mishra, who was the leader of Purva Mimamsa, which says that the point of the Vedas is to go to heaven, to do rituals, to do your duties, and to go to heaven. And he says, no, that is not the case. And they would debate for days. And the way the debate works is you present yourself and you say, what Vedanta asserts is that all that is here is one without a second, and that you are not different from that. And then the Purva Mimamsa will say, no, the point of the Vedas is to know that you are one individual amongst many, and your job is to perform the rituals, and one day after death, your jiva was sent to heaven. Yeah, so this is the beauty of why Vedanta is knowledge. That means knowledge, something that you can factually demonstrate, factually prove.
In fact, in a short while in Amsterdam, on September 7th, there will be a very interesting debate between Swami Sarvapriyananda and the famous quantum physicist Bernardo Fassler.
Yes.
They will have a meeting
Yes.
in Amsterdam, September 7th.
Okay, that's fun to watch. So he's one of those few in this tradition, Sarvapriyananda, who is actively going out there and debating. Most of the Advaitins don't do that because we're just teaching, but he's one of those who is actively debating. So, and he's got many YouTube videos against those who claim that consciousness is the product of the brain. There was one debate against, I don't remember the name, and they're good to watch because it lets you see what objectivity really means. Objectivity means I don't put you down, I just listen. I want to investigate what do you have to say, what claims are you making, and then you have to have this objective discussion, and you both learn. Yeah.
And every Vedanta teacher has his own guru, just in case he has any questions, he can clarify them. And if the guru is dead, he can go to the Jagat guru to clear all doubts that come up.
In other words, within the Guru Shishya Parampara, you have someone to ask. And that one to whom you're asking, hopefully they have someone else to ask. So this is how it works. If they're by themselves, they could be, because their guru could be, have died, but they're still getting that whole import, that education, constantly delivered by listening to audios and teaching like that. Group 6, okay, let's go. So these two powers that we mentioned were of Maya, Vikshepa Shakti and Avarana Shakti. Okay, so we have Maya, Vikshepa Shakti and Avarana Shakti. Avarana, okay? And that's the nature of Maya. So all Maya does is projects. That's what it does. That's its nature. And it cannot stop, because that's the essence of, just like the essence of your lips is to keep moving and thus producing sounds. You can't stop it. In that same way, the nature of Maya is to keep on projecting and to hide information. And we said that when it projects at the level of the macrocosm, then it creates you right now, and me, and the world, and birds, and stars, and galaxies, and all universe, and time and space. So right now, what you're experiencing is Maya's projection power. Now, when it comes to the microcosm, or the individual, I put I for individual, then that same power ends up, as Anetta said, between your ears, right? Your personal ideas, your personal superimpositions, your personal biases onto the person. So Avarana Shakti, conversely, when it comes to macrocosm, it creates differences, because you have to hide information from a worm so that it doesn't inhere genes that would otherwise make its body into an ant. So it's got a different genome. So therefore you have to hide certain genetical information from the body to make that body assume a certain form of a worm, of an ant, of a body, and so on. Okay? In fact, monkeys and we share a very close genetical framework. Only about 5% plus minus is different. And yet such combinations can create such vast differences. So therefore, what happened there? Ishvara said, okay, 95% same between humans, 95% same with monkeys, but that 5% that we have extra is hidden from a monkey's body. And because it's hidden, therefore you have a monkey's body. And because it's not hidden here, you have a human body. And for an individual, that same avarana shakti converts into avidya. Avidya, which is what creates chaos in our life. Avidya means ignorance. And thus, right, the person then starts to have different opinions about this I. And we said the I is not a problem. The issue is the opinions that are directed towards this I am. I am this, I am that. And why is that direction happening? Because of avidya. Everyone comes with avidya. And therefore, the universal experience is that we all look at ourselves as small individuals. And that's why we're all looking, since I have a friend now in Melbourne. I knew her daughter when she was 3. And, already now she's, I think, 5. And she's already, looking for things, looking to search for her little world, looking for books, looking for different kinds of toys that they were at 3 years old. So the nature of the object changes, and all of those objects I'm playing with because I want to temporarily, right, resolve my sense of limitation. So it starts from a very, very small age, all because of avidya. Okay, good. So the point of this exercise was to give you a chance to listen to yourself while you're speaking. It is an opportunity to see how clear you really are with yourself. So this is something that you can give feedback to yourself. Like, while I was speaking, how did I feel while I was speaking? If I felt totally relaxed, that means your knowledge is relatively, right, stable. If you felt nervous or this or that, all of this are just these superimpositions that you're carrying that have to be popped. One bubble after another, after another, after another, after another. And this takes time. And the only way to pop bubbles is to be given a chance to actually pop the bubble. That's it. So this means doing it, to engage in the world and to show oneself as a vulnerable human being. That is what pops the bubbles. And every time it does, it brings you closer to relaxing in your being. Relaxing as you are. Chapter 3, verse 1. Brahmaha devebhyaha vijigye tasyaha brahmanaha vijaye deva amahiyanta. Chapter 3 is a story. And there was a battle between the devas, who are the good guys, and the asuras, who are the bad guys. Okay? And good guys won. The good guys won because the laws were in their favor. What does this mean? Well, it means that if you do the right thing, then long term, the laws will be in your favor. You want to kind of eat yourself from inside out, from all of the guilt of being so unfair and, having been so angry and so resentful, and all of that is, going to eat up the person. So when the person is, right, aligned with the laws, then they're able to move freely in this world, and this gives them clarity. As long as there's Duryodhana worrying about what's going to happen to me, am I going to win, I'm on the wrong side, all of these narratives just keep adding, and it takes away from the clarity of the warrior, and thus they cannot think. And we're all warriors and warrioresses in this world. Therefore, the favor is yours by your conscious alignment with the laws. As we said, what kind of laws? Law of dharma. Knowing that as long as I do what is right and it counts the well-being of myself and the other person, that we call you're relatively in touch with dharma. The moment it becomes about me, but I don't think about how is it potentially influencing other factors outside of me, then there's a danger of it becoming adharma. And you say, so what? What's in it for me if I violate adharma? Well, there is second law, law of compensation. We call this law of karma. So the way that it's made is because everyone's given this dharma system. The moment I misalign myself with it, the law of karma shows me feedback how well I was keeping with the laws. This is how it is. And in this sense, it is an entirely fair system because no one is denied feedback. So this means everyone has a potential to see, after having done this, what kind of an effect, what kind of a person has it induced, has it brought out in me? And the person that is brought out in me, am I proud of that person? Or am I shameful of that person? Am I embarrassed of that person? If I'm proud of that person, then what kind of a pride is it? Is it a healthy pride? So therefore, the indicator is your guidance system, how to take your life so that you keep on growing and growing and growing and growing. Okay? Now the thing is, the good guys won. And the glory of their winning was Ishwara's glory, because all that is here is intelligence, making it possible to move your arms, to shoot an arrow, to plan, to think how to beat the bad guys. This is all Ishwara's glory. And what happens is the devas, the good guys, took it as their glory. And now we have a little issue here. So what happens is everyone comes with a talent, with some talent, artistic talent, thinking talent, singing talent, managing finances talent, starting businesses talent. Everyone has some talent. And what can happen is the more that talent grows and grows and grows, the more there is a danger of becoming excessively proud of one's talent. So now it becomes about me. I am big. I am special. I am, this person. And the more that happens, the more likely Ishwara will pop your bubble one day, because it cannot be sustained. For example, we can have an employer who hires employees and they think they have control. Look, I've got all of these people underneath me and I am, in position of being a manager or the CEO. And so the higher you go in the hierarchy, the more likely you're going to start to mistake as this is my success alone. Until one day, one of your employees, most important employees, changes company and it affects your turnover. And thus you see, wow, I didn't have as much control as I wanted. Any moment the world could have changed and now I've lost something that was so precious, which I thought was going to last forever. So therefore the devas are forgetting Ishwara's glory. They're forgetting the fact that so many variables, so many people contributed to your success. Taking ownership of my glory, my skill. The moment this my comes, I have less of what I really need for my success. That means I start to discard the laws. And the more I discard the laws, the less I am in touch with myself. Because the more I discard Ishwara, and what's the truth of Ishwara? I am. So to discard the world, to the extent to which I discard the world, which is nothing but consciousness, is the equal extent to how much I understand myself. Think about this. This is why we have very clearly pointed out in these pseudo schools where you discard the world. It's just illusion. And awareness alone is, and yet the world is the very thing that you are. So to the extent to how much I discard the world is the extent to how much I truly understand myself. If I discard the world a lot, then I may think from this standpoint that I'm clear, but in actuality, I have not understood. I have not understood because I'm discarding myself. And yet you're not excluded. You, not just here, by the way, you are not excluded from you. Therefore, the devas have become a little bit, excessively proud, arrogant, and they thought that the victory was theirs alone. And thus what happened was their bubble eventually burst. And what happened then? Okay, in verse 3.2, I'm not going to read it because it's just a very, very short verse. So I'm just going to speak. So now in verse 3.2, Ishvara appears in front of these devas. And it appears in a form of a yaksha. A yaksha is just a wise celestial being. So just like a wise person, but just in a higher world. And when we say Ishvara here, what is the definition of Ishvara? If I ask you, how do you define Ishvara? Well, in Vedanta, you can describe it as the material cause and the intelligent cause. But you can also say Ishvara is Sarvajna, Sarva Shakti. In other words, all knowledge, all power. Okay? Now, this material cause and intelligent cause, that has a different Upanishad. It's a different teaching. So in this Upanishad, I will say Ishvara is Sarvajna, which means Sarva, all knowledge, all power. And Ishvara includes human beings, includes devas, includes asuras, and all of them appear within Ishvara. They're all manifestations of Ishvara, while simultaneously Ishvara remains free of whatever the human goes through, whatever the deva goes through, whatever the asura goes through. Remember, asura is just a bad guy, a misguided being, a misguided person. When it uses the two words deva and asura, so again, see, they're all sentient beings. A human being is a sentient being, someone that you're wearing right now. You're wearing humanness on you. And then when it comes to the word deva, which is very confusing for some of us, because we hear these goddesses and gods, and who are they? Well, to reconcile the confusion, deva always has two definitions. The first definition of deva, or what is it in Greek and Roman mythology? They call it deities, right? And in Christianity and Islam, they call it angels. Okay? So here we call them deva. And the first definition of deva is they are just like human beings, but in a more ascended state. They're in a different loka. Loka means world. Loka. Okay? So according to the Vedas, we have 14 lokas, and we are in Bhuloka. We are earth. So this means earth. What kind of sentient beings do we call on earth? Well, in our sense, we call them human beings. Now, in above, like Swarga, like heaven. So yes, Vedas talks about heaven. What is heaven? It is much lighter. So for example, right now, you cannot walk through a wall. Okay? Because your body is very gross. You cannot fly, and you experience hunger. In heaven, there's no hunger. And the joy is much subtler. So here you have to have a brain chemical of dopamine release. Without dopamine, there's no happiness. But in a subtler world, you don't need this chemicals rushing into the body. It is subtler joy, so it's much easier to experience something. Music is amazing. It's same music like now, but it sounds 1,000 times better. It's just the most beautiful thing to hear. Okay, so tastes are much more delicious, and feelings are, overdrive beautiful, and sights and colors are amazing. And the more colors, we only see a certain spectrum of colors. Other worlds have different colors, which you cannot even imagine, but there are actually different colors right now. And in other words, in this world, we are locked to a certain range of experience. Gravity, walking, seeing color. But a different world, the range is much more, right, expanded, it's larger, which is why heaven is so attractive, because it is just, an incredible place to be in, and everything's just so pretty and lovely, and the life is so easy. So deva are these beings who are inheriting, right? Swarga Loka or one of these 14 lokas. And they're more refined. And how do you become a deva? Would someone like to become a deva? Yeah, exactly. So to become a deva, you need lots of punya. Punya is a product, a result of dharmic actions. Okay, so a lot of actions, and rituals and prayers gets you to a next life in a different kind of body, but not on earth, in a very subtle body. So their minds is much more sophisticated, much more intelligent. You think you develop your mind here for 100 years, and you think you're some intelligent hotshot. A deva gets born. By the time they're like 15 or 16, they're already light years ahead of our intelligence for 100 years old. So you can see how relative this universe is. Here we are going, oh, I'm so smart, I know 5 languages, I know this, I know that, and yet that is only within the range of Earth. You go into the higher worlds, there the intelligence is much, much larger. Yes.
The thing I found also interesting in that first sentence there, by defeating their own asuras, like they probably got so much punya.
Yeah, how did Asura get up there, right? How did Asura get up there? So here you have to take the story a little bit, with some forgiveness. Asura is a misguided being. So maybe something happened and they're like, oh, everything's so pleasant here. We are the best, we're enjoying this. And so slowly, they become arrogant, these Asuras. And so the Devas wants to put them down. Wants to hold them so they don't, cause destruction.
Andre, so do you want to say that moksha is not the end, that there is another life as Deva?
No, I'm not saying that. So even Asuras, as you will see now, are equally ignorant of their nature. Even if they're 100,000 times more intelligent, they are equally ignorant of their nature. So what the story wants to show you is that no matter how high you ascend, you still need the same knowledge that we're teaching now. Exactly the same methodology, exactly the same teaching, exactly the same reconciliation of Ishvara awareness and the world. Exactly the same.
So also for Devas there is moksha.
For Devas there is no moksha. Moksha is only possible on Bhuloka and Brahmaloka, according to the Vedas. The reason why is because this is a very unique place on earth where you experience pain. And pain is a great tool to make you question the meaning of life. Until I question the meaning of life, I'm not going to start looking. In fact, we can prove this right now. How many people even look for moksha in this world? A lot. In fact, everyone does. But what kind of moksha? Ice cream, right? Food, etc. So the word moksha changes as the mind matures. But in terms of the final, right, moksha, that means identifying knowing yourself as you are. That is only possible here on earth and Brahmaloka. Now, Brahmaloka is very hard because there you have to do so much on earth, so much activity. I mean, from day one, right? So strict with rituals and all of the Vedic expectations of living. Only then you can go to Brahmaloka, which is nearly impossible. Forget about it. So basically, earth alone can give you the final moksha.
Isn't the word Deva also used for in early Vedic culture? They also adored the elements, simple, natural. That's the reason why it's Anji here, why it's Vayu here.
Yeah, that will come. So I'm still on definition number 1. Definition number 2 will be exactly what you're saying.
I still wanted to ask, I mean, it's probably asked many times before, but like we have such a special birth as a human being, what you said was to get moksha, and only in the Brahmaloka. but why from all us human beings, 8 billion right now, it's so 0.00% interested in that, find it, either as student or teacher, and even engaging in it, still not to life's end, really getting it. Why so little of the 8 billion?
So the question is, even if Krishna told Arjun the knowledge, it was a direct Lord to Arjun student transference. And he delivered to Arjun the whole Bhagavad Gita directly from the Lord's mouth. And at the end of Mahabharata, what happened to Arjun? He went to heaven. In other words, even if he heard the knowledge from the Lord, he still didn't think about it long enough, and thus he ascended to heaven rather than dropping the body once and for all. So even if you receive the knowledge directly from Lord Krishna or a Lord incarnate, it doesn't guarantee that you will really capture. So this means you have a very special, a kind of a, not a special, but a subtle mind, an inquirer's mind. Now remember, Arjun, he was a warrior. He had Draupadi, and he had Subhadra, which was Krishna's sister. That was his wife. And he had 2 wives to please him. He had 4 brothers to please him. He was a warrior. He was handsome. He was getting a lot of attention. He had Hastinapur to himself. And thus, there was a lot of opportunities to take him away from the inquiry. A lot of opportunities. So like that, even if one is given this knowledge and they are within this tradition, there are always forms to be obsessed over. There are always forms to capture me and grab me and take me for a ride. And they become the dominant focus of my life. So thus, the forms, and why the senses are constantly attuned to these forms, that is how they, that's how it is on earth. You're obsessing yourself over forms, the pretty girls over there, handsome men over there. Even in spiritual togethernesses, events, a long time ago I was just listening, and basically most people are there looking for a relationship. It's so strange to me, right? And so even, right, what we're saying is you're much bigger than this, your body, and yet I'm showing up to look for something to take away temporarily my sense of smallness. So again, I'm looking for students to remove my sense of smallness, for partner to remove my sense of smallness. And why is this? Because it's been like this since beginningless time, and it is so deeply ingrained that you need Ishwara's grace. Prayer and prayer and prayer and sincerity. It is really just the most humbling journey you can imagine. No question of showing oneself, having an agenda of some future agenda. The more this shows up, the more the person goes back into the world. So it needs that dedication, total dedication. And through that, but that's very rare. How many people start a business? A lot of people say, I want to start a business, but few actually start like a business that generates recurring income. But a lot of people do want to do that. Why not? Because it requires dedication, it requires persistence, and it requires a decent amount of sacrifice. What can I put aside? For example, I had to put aside my utter love for programming since 9 years old. All I wanted to do just program. And I had to stop this because I realized it was taking like 6 hours per day of my time. And I had to say no to that. So this means the person has to recognize what is pulling me and is it really serving my goal. And I realized I don't want to program anymore because it's only targeting one small area of my brain. Whereas if you learn a new language, it's going to target all areas of your brain. So therefore, the person has to constantly and actively make a choice every single day, a new self-affirmation. I choose to take this journey with all sincerity. This life is it.
Andre, can you also explain, even if you know what is the right way to walk
walk, like the uncle of Arjuna, knew my dharma, my duty is with this kingdom. I know it's a wrong choice to, or it's, I know that God is at the other end, and
Right.
I want to maybe in my heart know that they will win. Even then, I choose this way because I'm bound to this
Yeah.
dharma in this life.
Yeah, and you're not really ever bound. This is again a pratibhasika stuff, a notion that we're telling ourselves. So yes, they do communicate like that. Duryodhana says, I know what is to be done, and yet I cannot get myself to do it. So instinctively he knew he's on the wrong side, and yet he couldn't pull himself out of that mischievous boy who wants to have it his way. So, and then you say, wow, that's just his dharma, that's just his, his swadharma, that's his stuff. Well, it is his stuff, but every stuff, you're not bound to any stuff because you're a new person every single day. So he bought into the idea that this is who I am, this is my identity. But in actuality, you're always free to release your old identity. So this goes back to Aneta's question, why are such a small population? Because I'm so attracted and addicted and so finding so much joy in my old identity. I'm getting so much out of it. And I'm afraid that if I have to turn a new leaf, start a new fresh life, what's going to happen? Fear. Fear is there. So it's also fear involved because I'm getting comfort from my existing little attachments to the world. So it's many variables keeping one bound. So the first definition of deva is they have a lot of punyam, however, they're still ignorant of their nature, no different than someone born on earth. They have a subtler body, subtler gross body, and a subtler subtle body, however, they're still ignorant of I am and Ishvara. So just like us, devas, even if they're so intelligent, where is their focus? On the forms. Look at that. 100,000 times more intelligence. Still, focus is on forms, no different than for a human being. But what kind of forms? Subtler, more pleasing forms. What kind of forms here? Okay forms.
Would there be also war and suffering in the world of the devas?
There in Puranas, they do talk about Rakshasas, but also the Rakshasas are the bad guys. Asuras are not so bad, but they're bad. And then and Devas are the good guys. So anywhere you go, anywhere in this world, is going to be duality. So it's always going to be informed and misinformed. So it's not like heaven is all just beautiful. There's also degrees of punyam in heaven. So in that sense, you can say there is, the bad guys, the Rakshasas, the bad guys, the Asuras. And that can create potential conflict. I don't know about wars, but potential conflict. Yeah. So it's not just like, oh, heaven is all just perfect. Everyone loves each other, hugging each other. There is degrees of punyam. Because you can have two people on earth, both are doing a lot of good service, charity, giving donations, feeding the poor. But one of them may not be doing it, to the intensity or frequency as the other, such as, Bill Gates. He has, done so much for those in Africa. And there's also Warren Buffett, who, gives billions of dollars to charity. And they both, suppose, go to heaven. But they have a different kind of punyam to them because they had different actions. So therefore, they're also going to get different bodies, different kind of privileges in heaven, but not here because they have so much punyam that it warrants a better kind of a world, a better world, where you don't have to go, oh, it's dark today, oh, it's cloudy, rainy today, it's always sunny.
From my understanding, wouldn't it mean when the devas are fighting the Rakshasas that two different lokas are somehow meeting?
Potentially, yeah. I guess you could look at it like that. But just for simplicity, they're all now together, I guess, having one big party, and Devas are winning in this case. Okay? Now, the second definition of Deva, and then we will finish, is intelligence that we've been talking about, all knowledge, all power. When this intelligence manifests as different laws in this universe, the Vedic culture gives those laws a name, such as Lakshmi Deva. So now you say, what is Lakshmi Deva? Well, how do we imagine Lakshmi, the one who gives resources and wealth and and just general abundance in your life? Well, we imagine there's a Lakshmi standing on a lotus flower, right, somewhere, and distributing wealth, right? We literally imagine a god, a goddess somewhere distributing wealth. This is not what Lakshmi is. Lakshmi is nothing but Ishvara from the standpoint of that one who blesses you wealth because of your punyam, because of your merits. And then we have Saraswati. Saraswati again, we think is some, lady with Sita, right? Sita and a book, right? Standing somewhere and, throwing a little bit of knowledge here and there. Saraswati is knowledge. That means Ishvara as that one who blesses you knowledge. When you say, wow, I know, it's just making all sense. It's making sense. That, then we call it Saraswati Deva. Yeah, Devata. Saraswati Devata. Because Deva is masculine, Devata is... Oh, Devi. Okay, so Devi is feminine, Deva is masculine. Okay? Therefore, when we think of Ganesha, right, or Vishnu, or Lakshmi, or Saraswati, they're nothing but knowledge power looked at from different aspects. When that knowledge power, you look at it from the aspect of digestion, then you call it digestion Deva. Okay? So be afraid not of these names. They're just Vedic cultural names. We have psychology Deva. And therefore, what do I worship? I worship psychology Deva. For whose benefit? Your own benefit. And therefore, you go in, you do what is to be done to have a good psychology. So, two definitions of Deva. One is ascended beings, and second is intelligence looked at from different aspects. And then we have asuras. Asuras, I said, is just misguided beings. So wherever we go, we can feel the presence of misguidance in some decisions that are made. So asuras is just misguided. Okay, and then the next verse. Now the devas are very intrigued by this yaksha, this celestial being. Such a beautiful being they've never seen before. And they want to come over and ask, who is this yaksha? And we will see what the yaksha is going to do. How he's going to poke them a little bit and bring them back down to earth because they're too arrogant, too proud, right, of their success. Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.